And welcome to another edition of the ETB Sportsnet Coaches Show. I'm Kenneth the K-Rock Klein, of course, but we don't need to know that anymore. But what we do need to know is the fact that we have another coach that we need to interview because she and her team have a big upcoming meet coming up soon this weekend. And of course, we're talking with our head men's and women's cross country coach, Natalie Bach-Prather, who after a couple of weeks, coach, it's finally back for you to get ready for a big meet. So just talk about things that have been going on with the team in the last couple of weeks. What have you been doing? Just staying in shape or just kind of getting relaxed? What's been going on?
Well, a lot of running. We've kind of transitioned from, a lot of our heavy sets in the morning to now doing some track workouts in the evenings, which is a lot of fun for the kids and also just kind of keeps everyone mentally fresh and I think ready to have a great meet this weekend.
Absolutely, Coach, and it'll be fun. So let's go back to your annual home meet. Coach, I gotta say, I always knew that cross country runners had to have perfect ability just to kind of keep pace or at least try to run through some tracks and all that. And I had the opportunity to ride on the back of a cart and keep track of an actual race itself. I don't know if you've managed to see that as well, but just kind of riding it back and keeping track of the runners. I gotta say, the thing that I've noticed is that, there seems to be a big pile up at the start, but once you get through a couple of laps or so, that's when you kind of start to see the runners separate themselves, and it just feels like everybody's just kind of out in the distance. I mean, I'd be in the front, and then I look out in the back, and there's a bunch of runners separating themselves. But just kind of talk about the ability to kind of run on these different terrains, what it does to the team as far as having the mindset.
Well, the home course obviously has its advantages because we run on it every single week. So they kind of know what it's going to be like and, they know what's going to be challenging per loop. This was a unique race this year because there was that pile up. Normally it's broken up after mile 1, but there was a pile up till mile 3, which is interesting. Of course, if you knew what most of those kids' times could be or are on a consistent basis, you knew that they were running slow and they were all kind of just feeling each other out. So they were kind of playing games with each other those first few loops, which is why there was such a big group because no one was making that first move and everyone was just kind of ride on someone else's shoulder until you get to about that, mile 4 towards that last loop. It's when someone started making a move and decided it was time to go to work. So that always makes it interesting because like you said, then all of a sudden it strings everybody out for really long ways. But eventually they all come through. But this was this was a good race for us personally. It was the best that we've raced all year. Yeah. We came in with a lot of mileage from this summer. And we were kind of needing a meet where we were going to feel good and have that spring in our step and look like we were competing. And I think that we did all of those things.
Absolutely, Coach. Just looking back on that race in particular and all that, I saw Mac out in the front for a while there before, the guy pulled away in the end and Mac couldn't catch up. He did finish second, which was obviously a positive for you. But then, of course, you had another runner in the top 10 or top 20 in the end. So absolutely a great result. And then just kind of talk about, where your team sits at this point, kind of where they are. Obviously, when you started the season, they were kind of at the beginning process of, okay, it's another new season. Some of these guys, they know what to expect with these races and all that, even though there's still the possibility that it could be different than what it was last year. And then you have your runners that are okay, what to expect. But from an overall team perspective, on both the men's and the women's, where do you see the team at this point?
They've come a long ways. And, like I said at the beginning of the year, we're in a unique spot because most of them are freshmen and a handful of sophomores, except for Mac, who's our one junior. So we're very young. And sometimes being very young, it shows itself with the mileage and buildup that we've done. But they've all kind of gotten to the point where I knew that they could get. And, as for how we'll compare with the rest of the teams, we'll find out this weekend. I think that they have done an incredible job with a lot of hard work this season. And I'm excited to see what those results are going to be because I know what they're capable of and I can see that we're at that point where we should be able to see those results. But at the end of the day, it's going to be, how are they feeling when they wake up race day and how's the weather and how's the terrain. And, hopefully everything will fall into place and we'll have a really good day.
Yeah, one thing that kind of was interesting, what I was thinking about, obviously, is the fact that, you've had a couple weeks off. Obviously, you've gotten some running in, but the timing of the fact that you hadn't been the only competition during those 2 weeks has been with yourselves, of course, and all that. Like, does it kind of play a factor in, like, when after a couple of weeks you're back into competition and you're going up against all these other runners from all these other schools? Does that tend to play a factor in, or is it just like you already know what to expect? You just got to go out there and worry about your time and all that.
A little bit of both. We were supposed to run another meet 2 weeks ago, but I think mentally we needed a break. We were a little bit fatigued, and so pulling them out and not having raced these 2 weeks is going to give them an edge. I think that when they tow up to the line, it's going to give them that extra adrenaline because we haven't been on the race line in a couple weeks, and so it's going to add a little element of extra excitement, which hopefully is going to give them the results we're looking for.
Absolutely, Coach. And so now, with all that said, it's getting to the point now where it's all what you've worked hard for, another trip to the ASC conference meet, of course, and you're looking to put together some positive results, but also to potentially have some of your top runners make it all the way to the NCAA regionals. I kind of, obviously I kind of have a feeling of like who could potentially get it in there, but how does it kind of work out? Like, do you have to have like a positive result in order for you to, have a chance to qualify for regionals, or just kind of, if you don't mind breaking it down?
Yeah, no. So I know that each school kind of has their own way of getting kids to regionals, and the majority in our conference, I think, are kind of the way that we are geared is you either have to be top 3 as a team, as a whole, or top 25 as an individual. And so I see several of our runners, there's several that have the capability. Team-wise, we're going to have to really come together, and everything's going to have to just be perfect on race day. We have that capability. But I do know several that I think should be able to make it. I don't want to jinx anything, so we'll wait till the results to find out. But we should definitely have some runners at regionals.
Well, let's hope for the best, and you just get ready and all. And obviously, Abilene, of course, very familiar. It's kind of become like a second home, maybe third home, depending on which way you want to look at it. But of course, for the runners that might not have known, not know what the trek out in Abilene is like, just kind of talk about, what challenges it presents. I mean, the wind's obviously a factor, as I've been told, before. Just kind of talk about that.
So the wind is always definitely a factor. I think it actually affects track more than it does cross. The actual course we'll be on is a little bit sheltered with some of the trees. It's a really flat course, so it should be a really good day for them. We'll run the course the day ahead of time. As a rule, I try not to make too big of a deal of the conference course. I want them to look at it as just any other cross-country course that we're running. We just happen to have a really good day that day, so that they don't build it up into their head like some, just get too excited. We don't need to get the adrenaline pumping any more than it already is. So, we try to keep it pretty calm and cool, and, we run the course the day before so they're familiar with where they need to be running and where they need to be at what times. But we're trying not to focus too much on what the course is like versus the fact that they just gotta, in the middle of a race, it's really weird. Even all the years that I've raced, you never actually remember the course you raced on, because it's always about that next person in front of you. So the course doesn't really affect them, and it probably won't this weekend.
All right. Well, best of luck to you, Coach, this weekend as you head on out to Abilene for another trip to the conference tournament meet. We will have the results of that and more. You can keep track with ETVU Cross Country as you follow them on our social media accounts and on the website. Stay tuned, folks. We will have more of the ETVU Coaches Show with our next head coach. You'll know who it is next time.